Today, welcome into the Raw Knuckles podcast. I am joined today by a three-time Stanley Cup champion. He was a versatile player who wore both the red and white of the Detroit Red Wings and the blue blanc et rouge of the Montreal Canadiens, none other than Mathieu Dandenault.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. Raw Knuckles. Hosted by Chris Nilan.
Nilan going ballistic. I love it. He's going to hit his own players. He's a madman. He's a freaking madman. Look at him going to town. That'll be a suspension. That'll be a fine. Bring them all out, Nilan, you freak.
It's going to be sick.
What's up, Matthew? How are you, buddy?
I'm great. Thanks for having me, Chris.
Yeah, thanks for joining me. Listen, I want to go back to your Sherbrooke days. You were born in Sherbrooke, play hockey there. You grew up a Habs fan, and who was your favorite player growing up?
I did. Grew up in Sherbrooke, and I was a Habs fan. And actually, my favorite player was Mathieu Dandenault. So that was
yeah.
The little Viking used to score a lot of goals, and I get a lot of points. So he was pretty much my favorite player growing up. And obviously, the Guy Lafleurs of this world was pretty special. But we used to watch hockey on Saturday night, that's for sure.
So you didn't grow up in Beloy?
Nah, Beloy. So people don't know it's Beloy. That was one of the funniest things because I do live near Beloy.
Listen, it's funny. First time I met Scotty Bowman, your coach for so long in Detroit, I was drafted the year before, and I came to one of the Canadiens games in the playoffs, and Ron Caron brought me into the locker room after a game, and he introduced me to Scotty, and he says, he introduced me to him, and Scotty said, welcome, what position you play? I said, I'm a right wing. He said, can you play defense? And I said, I swear to God, exactly what he said, could you play defense? And I said, listen, I'll play anywhere you want me to. And that was the extent of the conversation. And you started as a forward and you get transitioned to defense by Scotty Bowman. How difficult was that? Because I'm like, yeah, I'll play anywhere you want. But if he told me, I'd have been scared shit. I've been like, I don't want to play D. Like, how'd that work for you? How difficult was it?
Well, it was difficult, and the funny thing is that as a winger, pretty much all my life, center winger, in junior, I had some good scoring season, and so I was, a high scorer. And then my first year in Detroit, I started playing on the line with Steve Yzerman, and I think in my first 12 games, I had 5 goals. And then they put me in, and this is no dog, but I like telling the story. Then they put me with Stu Grimson, and I finished the year with 5 goals. But I didn't play much my first season. Scotty just wanted me around just to be with the guys, practice with the guys. So I only played like 35 games that year. So it wasn't much. So now, but that year we did win the President's Trophy. Set up, I think, the record for of the Canadiens with 62 wins. That year. So we had a real high-profile team, and we were supposed to win it all. December 2nd, we go to Montreal, beat them 11-1. Next thing you know, Patrick gets traded to Colorado, and we face him in the semifinals. Wins. So now they win the cup. So now
was that the Ray Bork year?
No, that's not.
No. Okay, that wasn't. No, they played Jersey
on the road. Yeah.
Yeah, they played Jersey.
That was the Claude Lemieux hit from behind, Draper, face, the whole mess there. And but we still had a really strong team. We were supposed to win the cup, 62 wins. So going to the second training camp, Scotty brings me into the office and he goes, listen, I like you, but we pretty much have the same stacked team coming back, especially on forward, but we lost 2 defensemen. Now, I've done this before in the past with Jimmy Roberts. I didn't know who Jimmy Roberts was.
Yeah.
I've done it before in the past. He was a forward. He went to defense, and it turned out okay. So I want to do it with you. You skate fast, so if you make a mistake, you'll come back into play. So if you want to stay here, that's it. Go learn how to play defense. And it was a 5-minute meeting. That's all it was.
Right.
Next thing you know, and I'm with Dave Lewis, our assistant coach, and we're like going through different things like how to play defense and everything. And I remember at first it was so difficult because basically the other team was breaking out. I was already in my blue line, and every single time we go back into the play, I would just jump into the play, and you can always hear the coaches, no, stay back. And it took a while to get adjusted, but eventually, you like, oh, this thing works, this thing doesn't. And that's how, you got better at the position. But at first, the first 3 weeks to a month, it was crazy. And, but eventually, I got my bearings in and I could figure it out how to play. And it was a totally different position just have everybody in front of you. That was I think the biggest difference is that you have all other players in front of you, so you can gauge the play. As a forward, you're going back through traffic all the time, head on the shoulder. As a D, you kind of go back into the play. And so I got to be better at it. And obviously, Dave Lewis was a big part to help me out, but the players too. You learn from Nick Lidstrom and all these great players, Larry Murphy. So it made my job easier for sure.
I guess again, like you said, you just find yourself being way back, but the gap control must have been a big thing to make that adjustment to, not just falling way back and being able to stay up on the plate, stay in the forward's face. That's not easy. I'm sure, well, certainly you're a great skater, so that certainly helped you. But I want to go back to the draft. You drafted in 94 and drafted in the third round. Now, did you go to the draft that year? Second round, sorry.
Second round. Yeah.
Second. Did you go to the draft that year? It was in Hartford, right?
Yes, I did.
And so you went to the draft.
Yeah, and like a funny thing is that, like back then, we didn't have the combines. Individual teams did their thing. They'd call you up and come and do some training with us. And I remember the Devils, I went to New Jersey, and I went to do the testing. And the funny thing, I'm sure they still do it now, but the camera people, they know who's getting drafted before it's even announced, because they need to have the camera on you.
Yeah.
So I remember is that I was supposed to go late first, second round, somewhere in there, but New Jersey was like 25th overall. Next thing you know, the camera turns to me and they're kind of pointing at me. So I'm with my brothers and family. I'm like, oh, this is it. Move over. And, New Jersey would like to select. And I almost kind of got up a bit. And next thing you know, I think it was some Russian guy. And he got up right in front of me. It was
ouch.
Yeah, that was a tough one. And eventually a few of the French guys, I know José Theodore went to Montreal that year, fourth, and I came out 49th to Detroit.
Yeah. And
at the time, I did have a meeting with Detroit the night before. And it was just like, at the time, I was like, ugh, Detroit, it's going to be tough because they got such a good team. And in 94, they went to the Cup final against Jersey, I believe.
Yeah.
That was that shortened year. And but I was like, it's going to be tough to make that team. But, I made a good enough impression at that year training camp because they actually put me with Kozlov and Fedorov on the same line. So during, the inter squad games, and so I think I finished first in scoring on my team. And so I made a good enough impression that, like, okay, this kid's going to go back to junior. And then the following year, I know there was that lockout. Some year there was a lockout. And I know Scotty came to Sherbrooke to see me play my second year in Sherbrooke. And that was special. I knew it was something. It's if Scotty Bowman comes down to Sherbrooke, it's something. I remember I scored that game and I got to talk to him after the game. So I knew going back in my that second year training camp that I made a good enough impression that, if I just played well, you never know, you might have a shot at it. And I did.
How do you think I felt? We both had similar thing. I was drafted 231 in the 17th round, going to Montreal. And that was in 78. I was drafted, and I'm everybody's telling me, you don't have a chance in hell, right? And I was starting to believe people because when I certainly I followed the Bruins and I saw them get beat every year by the Canadiens, and I was like, yeah, maybe I don't. Then I got to camp and I was like, it was so intimidating. It was like people don't realize. And again, I was coming out of college too, so it was a big difference for me than having played junior. There's more NHL style of game, no question about it. But so that I guess when I look at that Sherbrooke 95, 96, you had one game in Sherbrooke, 4 in Adirondack. What was that about? And then you played up in the NHL. Did you start in Sherbrooke and then?
Yeah. So in the queue starts before NHL training camp. So I think our training camp back then, I think was like August 15, mid-August. So we have our training camp and then we start the season. So I got to play. I was captain of the team for one game. And then I went to the training camp in Detroit and I never came back. That was the thing. We had a good team in Sherbrooke. Like I think we would have went far. We had some good players there, but and then I think it was around Christmas time or something. It was somewhere in there that they sent me to the American League just to get playing time because I wasn't playing all that much. So they're like, give him a week. So I went for a week. It was 4 games. That's what it was in Adirondack, and then stayed with the team after that.
Honestly, that's amazing when you think of it. You know, a lot of guys, especially back then, they spent a little more time in the minors. You come up pretty quickly with a stacked team, like you said, and then it made that change because of Scotty Bowman. Now, I've heard all the Scotty stories, right? Here, you know, from the guys when I came in, and Scotty this and Scotty that. He was a prick and da. I look at his career, like his first 3 years, and granted, the league was smaller. Yeah. But his first 3 years in St. Louis, he went to Stanley Cup finals 3 times. Didn't win. Yeah. But went to the final 3 times. Then we know what he did in Montreal. He ends up winning 5 cups in Montreal. Goes to Buffalo. Really never got out the division semifinals once. And he lost in the semis 1 time. But then it's on to Detroit. Scotty, what made him such a great coach from your point of view and where you're coming from?
Well, I got to give him credit because he's the one that brought me to the NHL. So I give him that. He's a great evaluator of talent, but I think he was ahead of the game because even back then when he would talk to us, he would look to ways to stretch the ice, stretch the zone. Even before he was talking about getting rid of the red line way before it got taken away in the NHL. But he was an innovator. Like you got to think like this guy coached in 5 different decades. The game was evolved, but he was always ahead of the game. That's what I found about Scotty. So he was really good at knowing what he needed talent-wise. He was because you think about it, the trades that we made weren't major blockbusters. There were some at the time in Detroit, but to get a Larry Murphy, which is a Hall of Famer, but at the end of his career, he was getting booed out of Toronto and stuff. And you get Larry Murphy, and he's an absolute stud. Granted, he played with Nick Lidstrom, but you still need the guy. Like he was a shut-down defenseman, and he played, the second power play and stuff. So you get a Jamie McCown that was, tougher, rugged defenseman. But it was just like these pieces that he knew where to get and get, the last inch of broad talent that he needed for us to win the cup. So I think he was really good at knowing what the game was going to be. And Scotty, I don't know, but Scotty didn't practice all the time with us. But he came out for the big games. When the Colorados were in town and stuff, he'd come out on the ice because he didn't practice a whole lot. But it was always he knew how to stretch the other team and try to suck him in. Like there was, we always did these neutral zone breakouts and stuff, regroups. And I remember talking to Steve Yzerman, like, what's the big difference when you were scoring 155 points a year? He said, we only worked the offensive zone and defensive zone, but the neutral zone, we never even worked it out. And Scotty would focus on that all the time. DD winger, DD far wing, DD center high, DD center low. And whenever a team was in town or we go play somewhere, it was always a strategy where our center would be, where the wings would be. Do we want to stretch them? Do we go down low? So he's a really good tactician, I found, playing for him. And as far as being a prick and stuff, like to us, he was the good guy. Like he was good to us. Like we knew all the horror stories from Montreal. We heard about them. The older players on our team, like, talk to each other with other teams and other, teammates and stuff. But we had it pretty good. So he toned down that way. But there'd still be days, Knuckles, where, you walk into the hallway, you see him, you say, "Hey, Dandy, how's it going?" Blah, blah, blah. And then the next day, just blow right by you like you never even existed.
What I do wrong.
Exactly. But he did do the jersey thing, the signing jerseys late at night, given to his seeker outside the hotel.
Oh, yeah.
An hour, he'd go check who signed. And Brendan Shanahan had a pretty good story because Shaddy would always sign like Doug Brown or Darren McCarty. That was the jersey thing. What Scotty found out.
Yeah, for those of you listening who don't know that, the head coach would call curfew at 11. But he would leave a jersey at the front desk and ask the guy at the desk to have, when the players come in, have them all sign it, And after 11, guys who would come in, "Hey, can you sign the jersey?" Some guys wouldn't know. And that's hilarious, Shanahan signing other guys' names. It's, it's funny you mentioned that Scotty knew how to get the last little bit out of each play, like Larry Murphy. And then I look, and Brett Hull, right, near the end, wasn't he?
Yep.
Luc Robitaille, near the end, right? And that was your 2002 Cup. Mm-hmm. So some of the players he brought in, again, like, it's unbelievable. But how much was that Scotty and Jimmy D? Is it both of them?
Well, I would say it was mostly Scotty because I know a story about me that he backed me up quite a couple of times because I think I was the youngest guy on the team for like 4 or 5 years. He liked to have his veteran guys, and it's one of the reasons why he did actually put me on D in a way, because he didn't like to bring out the guys from the minors all that much. He wanted a guy that knew the system, knew the players, knew the league. So that's why he put me on D, put me on forward, and stuff like that. But it was just like, I think he ran pretty much the show with Kenny Holland, I would say. Yeah. Jimmy D most certainly would have his input, but I didn't hear it. I barely even talked or spoke with Jimmy D at all. And it was mostly, Scotty, I want this, I want that. Like, Scotty had free reins in a way when he got to Detroit. That's for sure. And so it was just like, again, his talent. Now you're bringing a Brett Hull, you're bringing a Luc Robitaille, Hall of Famers, best scoring wingers, but you can only play on the third line, or you're going to play on the fourth line. It's tough to sell, right? Our team, I think our 2000 team may have, 12 Hall of Famers, if I'm not mistaken. That's who gets in and stuff. But it was just, So you're telling Luc Robitaille he has to play on the fourth line, and you're going to play about 10 minutes, but I'll give you the second power play or the first power play. So it was just, that's how it was explained. And Scotty was really good at that, because you're here for the win. You're here for the team. You're not here for individual records. And I think Brett Hull, like, everybody was kind of scared a bit of Brett because he can be,
brash.
He does have his tongue in his pocket, that's for sure. And your stories again in St. Louis, how he would give his teammates. But with us, I think he was really good to us. And once he got loud, the dressing room was so big and so strong. You kind of tell him, like, F off, Holly, and he go, it's okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I think your dressing room was too big and too strong with the Eisermans of the world, Lidstrom. So he respected a lot of guys. But Scotty, to bring in all these guys, he was able to have them crunch down their ice time because there's only 60 minutes. And I think it's the same thing with me. Like, obviously I'm not going to play 30. And the way it was explained to me, he said, you know what, Nick Lidstrom will play 30 minutes a night. I can't play him 60, but I'll play him 30. That means there's 30 other minutes. And if you're going to play 10, 12, 15, 18, whatever it is, you're just as important as Nick Lidstrom to your team, because if we get scored on, we're screwed. So you don't get scored on, you play well, you're just as important as Nick Lidstrom. Now, as a hockey player, that makes you feel like, holy shit, I'm going to go and give it my all on the ice. And that was one of the Scotty's talents. So, you got to give him credit, but to be able to bring all these guys and crunch their ice time, and everybody kind of rotated in a way, but for that 2002 team, it was like, oh, all this talent, but guys bought into the team system.
And now, it's funny, and I think of systems, and in Scotty's system, apparently you guys played the left wing lock?
Yes.
Okay. And I think of Jacques Lemieux. And Lemieux was, trapping, all his teams were trapping teams. And so Scotty was really a stickler for defense. He was.
Yes.
And to have all them offensive players there, it's amazing how he gets them to buy in, because I found that with Jacques, Jacques had a more difficult time getting those players who want to get their cookies to play that system, because they don't think it gives them enough offensive opportunities, where if you play it well and you're a good transition team in the neutral zone,
right,
you're able to get really good scoring opportunities, odd man rushes, all those things. And I saw it, a lot of the big name guys, the guys who wanted to score goals, didn't get that part of it and couldn't play in that system.
I totally agree with you, because we saw it firsthand. The thing about a winning team is that it goes from the top, organization, the owners and stuff, but if your top players, your superstars buy in, then it has a ripple effect on everybody else.
Yeah.
And I remember at that time, like, there was no salary cap, and we had we had a really high team, but our top guys bought into the system. So now you got a Steve Yzerman that used to score 160 points. Now he's scoring maybe like at 90 to 100, but he's blocking shots.
Were you there when he made that transition, or did he already make it?
I think I was there. Like, he was starting to make it, but I was there because at the time there was a big talk about trading Steve Yzerman to Ottawa for Yashin at the time. Yashin was a new kid on the block who was highly touted and stuff, and Yzerman somewhat was an Ottawa native guy type of thing. So it was big. And that rumor stayed for a few months, and Stevie played through it, but it was tough. But he played so well both ways. And to me, he's still the best leader I've ever been around. But they bought into the system of the left wing lock, and they figured out, like, if our top guys are doing it, then it has a ripple effect. And at the time, I think the New York Rangers had a really, really big salary team, the Messiers, and Agar, and all these guys. But we found out that some of those guys would cheat. They would cheat and not back check as much, wait for maybe a puck would come back, and a breakaway and stuff like that. So defensive, and I don't think they made the playoffs. And I remember that was specific to us, because we pretty much had two really good talented teams, but our team really bought into the system and of the left wing lock, and we did get more opportunities. Like, if you play well defensively, we'll create turnovers, and with our offensive guys, I mean, they'll make something out of nothing. And that's how we didn't have that many teams in the league back then. Now, pretty much most teams, they played the same, but back then it was different. But you're right, Jacques Lemaire was one of them with the trap, and we had the left wing lock, which is basically a trap too. Like, whoever's playing left has to be the guy that stays mostly high.
So those Stanley Cups, 97, 98, and 02, there had to be one that was more special to you than the other, and I can kind of figure out which one it is. But it must have been 02, right? You played 23 games.
Yeah.
The second year, did you play 3 games and you get your name on the cup? So you got your name on the cup. Awesome. The first one, no.
I didn't play. No, the first one I didn't play. Just a young guy being around. But I think you get your name on the cup if you play like 40, half the games. I think that's what it is. One game in the finals. That's what it is. Then the second year, I played 3 games, was able to score a goal there. That was fun. And then, but 2002, you're absolutely right. I mean, now it's like you're playing every game. You're an important part of the team. And that was one of the Scotty thing is that everybody felt so important because whoever was in the lineup always had a special responsibility. Like, of course, Nick Lidstrom's going to play first power play, first PK for sure. But then you'd have me play the second PK. I would play, and then Chelios would play the first power play, but he played the first PK. So everybody had a role, and Steve Duchesne would play the second power play, but he wouldn't play the PK. So we all had these intertwined, like playing on special team. So everybody felt so important. And 2002, going into the playoffs. So now we have, this is one of my, Steve Yzerman story, great leader type of thing. So we win the President Trophy back in March. So now we got going into April. Back then we had maybe 6 or 7 games. We lose all 7 or 6 or 7. All right. Now we're facing first versus 8, which is Vancouver. We play them at home. Knuckles, we lose the first 2 games at home. So now we're on an 8 or 9 games losing streak. Going into Vancouver and the Canadian media and all the newspapers, this is it. Like they're done. And, for game 3, the day before game 3, Steve Yzerman has a team meeting and he says, guys, I really like our team. We have a really good team. I feel if we play the same way, we're going to get our chances and we're going to get our bounce. Now, the first 2 games at home, I think there was a goal off a skate, off an ass, like lucky bounce, right? Yeah. So he goes, I feel if we play the same way, don't try to do everybody else's job, but play the same way, we're going to get a bounce to go our way. No. So next thing you know, game 3, Nick Lidstrom gets to the red line, fires a shot from the red line. It goes in. Oh, my God. Then we look at each other on the bench like, there's our bounce. Next thing you know, boom, 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 boom. Then we win game 3, game 4, game 5, game 6. Then we win 4 games and then go all the way to win the Stanley Cup.
Yeah, you won 4 in a row there, right? Yeah.
Right? Like we're all like kind of nervous. Like, oh, are we breaking down? What's happening? And Steve Yzerman at that time was playing on one knee. He knew he had to get a whole new knee at the end of the year. So the big needles and everything before every game, it was disgusting to watch. But he played on one knee. So
wow,
a lot of credit goes to him. But that speech, I remember, like, we're going to get a bounce. And then we did a shot from the red line on Dan Cloutier, I think was the goalie. And that changed the whole series for us.
Wow. I think back to 86 when we won, first round against Boston, we beat them 3 straight. It was 3 out of 5 that year. I think that was the last year. And then our most difficult round was Hartford. Mm-hmm. And you have that with Colorado. Our most difficult round, game 7, overtime. That was Pepe Lemieux scoring, which incredible. Yeah. Incredible goal. But when I think back, like, man, how huge that was, because I would have never got a sniff at. Listen, you've been around it 3 times. Yeah. I would have never got a sniff.
Yeah.
And I had so many guys on there who haven't, and I've had guys on who have. I mean, Brian Screwlin on it. He'd been to 5 cup finals. He won 2, I think, right? 1 here and 1 in, or 2 here, but. Just incredible, like some of the, you got to be with the right team, sure. Timing, all that. And some guys, they just end up with a team or teams during their career that just never come close and to get that opportunity. So that year, again, we'll get back to it, Colorado was probably his stiffest, right, opponent.
For sure.
And
how was the cup there?
How was that? Yeah. How was that
how
series?
Was the cup there?
Yeah, because it was either Carolina or Toronto.
Yeah.
You were going to face in the finals. But how difficult was that one?
Oh, it was hard because this is the big rivalry. This is the Claude Lemieux, Darren McCarty, the fisticuffs, and that's that had turned it around for the back-to-back cups. Just to go back the story a bit, is that when the whole fight happened with Patrick and Mike Vernon and stuff, that's when our team changed, that we could actually beat Colorado, because they had beat us 3 times during that year.
Right.
And then to come back from that, beat them in overtime, now we knew we could beat them. So anyway, so we win the 2 cups. Going back 2002, now I think it's at the end, I think it's 5 cups in 7 years between the 2 teams, whatever it is. But 2002, so now we meet them in the semifinals, pretty much like you just mentioned. Like, whoever wins this probably wins the cup. And so going into game 5, we lose game 5 at home. Now, Scotty, being Scotty at the time, he went and got who could match Patrick Roy in the NHL. There wasn't that many goalies, but one of them was Dominic Hasek. Yeah. So he went and got Hasek just to go head-to-head against Patrick. So we lose game 5 at home, going back to Colorado. And what does Dominic Hasek do? Shut out game 6. Shut out game 7.
Unbelievable.
It was unreal. And this is the Patrick Roy, I hate to say it because I like the guy, but the Statue of the Liberty thing, where he had it in his glove and Shanny just kind of poked it in. But that series was so hard. It was so tough, but it's such a great time to play in, because you got 2 teams. We're both nervous, but we're both giving everything we've got. And it's just a matter of have a few bounces, and the bounces went our way. But that was why we paid the big price to get a Dominic Hasek, is strictly for those 2 games, basically. And he was pretty much amazing. And he went against head-to-head against Patrick, and he wasn't nervous, and he just did his thing. But back-to-back shutouts is something to say. And
game 7, come on, 7-0 like that.
Well, here's the thing.
7-0. I could see if it was 2-0, but 7-0. What, they fall apart?
So to this day, that's the game. Like, like you're in a dressing room before a big game.
Yeah.
I've never felt the most confident, positive vibe ever before game 7. Everybody was quiet, but everybody was kind of confident. Like, we knew we'd come out, because we got away. Like in Colorado, we got away with it. It was awesome. They knew that they had to end us there in Colorado. There's no way they're going to beat us in our building after we came back that way. But the best feeling I've ever gotten into a dressing room before a game was before game 7 against Colorado, and we came out and dominated. It was crazy, and we went 1, 2, 3, 4 goals in the first period. And obviously, game's over back then, because we're not going to give anything away after that.
You're going to snuff them out.
Exactly. And they knew, like, they were done for in a way. And Patrick didn't have his greatest game, because they had to end us in game 6. There's no way they were going to beat us in game 7. But what a feeling it was just before a game. Like, tensions there, but it was a good confidence. And then everybody came out, boom, boom, boom. Our first 3-4 shifts were just amazing. And what a great feeling that was.
Yeah, it's funny. Like, I always say, game 7's at home. The home team has all the pressure. You're supposed to win, right?
Yeah.
And I'll never forget the 86. They scored. I'm sitting on the bench there, and the puck came to Wayne Babbage on the point, and he let it go, and Patrick couldn't see it. Went in over his shoulder, and they tied the game with less than a minute. Ooh. So right away, the bench is like, right? The bench goes down. It did. Yeah. Yeah. And I'll never forget, you talk about leaders, Bob Gainey. He come in the room, come on. He settled everything down. You have them repetitive things that you have to do in overtime to remember. Everything at the net, put the puck ahead, don't turn it over at the point. All those things you hear. And that repetition hopefully is the key to retention, and guys remember that. But as good as Patrick was those playoffs, Pepe Lemieux, and I always say it, they were 1-2 in the Conn Smythe voting. Yeah. But Pepe Lemieux scored, and he was a pain in the ass and all that. But I'm telling you, no bigger player in the playoffs. He was unbelievable in the playoffs. He just thrived for that. He had 5 game winners. I mean, 2 in overtime that year. Like, hello.
I think to have played him so many years, I think you're absolutely right. Like, he's a game changer. He was. But I think during the season, he obviously if he starts shit, now guys like you can go up to him, and give him the business, right?
Yeah.
But in the playoff, you can't.
Yeah, you can't.
You'll put your team in trouble. So I think he knew that. But if he played his whole career the way he played in the play, like the guy was just so big, so strong, had the nose to the net, he had the flair, like he was awesome in the playoff. But I think during the season, he kind of stay away from it because you don't want Chris Nilan going after you all the time. That's for sure. But what a game changer he was. And, I had to face him so many years, but you're right. Like in the playoffs, he was big, too strong. Like he's a thick guy.
He's a bull.
Yeah.
He's a bull.
And he could be mean and he could be really dirty too. Like he had it all. He
had that.
Playoff performer, that's for sure.
Yeah, it's funny. He was so immature in his years here, right? He hadn't matured yet. He never got out of Quebec. And it's funny. I look at Guy Lafleur. He played his whole career here, and then finally to see him in New York, right? I think it's so good when some guys are able to leave the province and get out there and see what it's like somewhere else. And I saw Guy in New York, and he was like totally different. He couldn't believe it, because he could walk around there and no one would, he wasn't always under the microscope, Yeah, around the rink, people knew who he was, but anywhere else, he could, we lived up in Rye. No one knew who the hell he was. And so it's pretty good. And when Pepe got out of Montreal, I think he got to the States, he started to mature some and get there. He's a smart kid. Everybody thought back in the day, he's a dummy, you big dummy, this and that. But he's just a bit immature as a young kid. And sure. I always, nothing but respect for him as a player. I hated what he did. Mm-hmm. Believe me, and his teammates did when he used to say shit and turtle. I hated that. Yeah. But, I guess it was easy for me to overlook when I saw how he played come playoff time.
Well, I think some of his teammates, I remember playing with the Yui crew that played for both teams, and Yui at the time, we did mention that that deflated him when he turtled.
Yeah.
But give the guy his prop, the following year he went, he knew he had to face.
Yeah, he had to dance.
He fought him, and he fought him well, actually, So he knew he had made a mistake, but he redeemed himself. That's for sure. And I think one of the difference when you mentioned getting out of Montreal, people ask me all the time, where's the best place to play? And obviously it's Montreal, but I think one of the biggest differences, in Detroit, it's called Hockey Town USA. But, we have plenty of reporters, but there's the Red Wings, there's the Tigers, there's the Lions, there's the Pistons, and we have the colleges, Michigan State, all these things. So, journalists are going left and right. And as for the fans, they're going whoever's winning. Yeah, you got those stars, but whoever's winning, look at the Lions now. They're roaming the city. They're doing well, the fans. So, but for Montreal, it's the Canadiens.
That's it.
7 TV shows, radio shows, whatever it is. So you get that diversity in different markets, and you've seen it in New York and in Boston.
I grew up in Boston.
Exactly.
Certainly,
there's very similar. I think that's the difference there. Yeah.
Yeah, and I always say Montreal is not a hockey town; it is a Habs town.
Yeah, you're right.
I remember the World Junior was here, right? They had the World Junior here. They didn't even fill the building. For the World Junior, everywhere else they fill it. Here they couldn't, and it's just Habs. And anyway, that's where I wanted to go next. Obviously, your time in Detroit comes to an end. Was Scotty there at the end, or was it?
No. So Scotty retired after his, I think, the 2002 Cup.
Okay.
That's when he laced them up to hoist the Stanley Cup.
Okay.
He asked Paul Boyer, equipment manager, get my skates. There was a minute left, and he tied the skate. I think
so. He kind of knew that was it. I'm gonna go out. Okay.
Going on, and then Dave Lewis, who was our defense.
Yeah, I know Dave.
He came in, and so he was the head coach for the last few years that I was there.
Okay. So you never got to play under Babcock then?
No.
Yeah.
I heard such great things about it.
I know, right? From Chelly, from just about everybody.
Yeah. So, but just at the end of my time in Detroit. So
Yeah,
back
how's
then,
that come about?
okay, so back then, so basically at the time when you played also, to be a free agent, you had to be 31 years old, right?
Yeah.
That's when you become an unrestricted free agent, and that's when you kind of hit the home run type of contract type
Yeah.
of thing. So, but there was a stipulation where if you stay under the average league salary for 10 years, you become an unrestricted free agent. So
Okay.
my last, I think, 2-3 years before then, I would always sign a 1-year deal type of thing, just under the average league salary. So I came in at 19. So now at 29, I become a free agent.
Wow.
And my last year, that was the lockout year, the 2004 lockout. So that year, I still had a 1-year deal. And so basically now that year expired. We didn't play. And so I became a free agent. And at 29, and Detroit was offering me a 2-year deal. And then I think it was Columbus and Boston 4-year deals.
Wow.
Now I'm thinking, okay, well, I think I got to go. Obviously, I'm going to take the years and the money. And then Montreal the next day came in at a 4-year deal, also less than Boston, just a bit less per year. But I'm like, it's Montreal. Like, you have to. Yeah, you have to. I got to do it. Like, I wanted Detroit to kind of match type of thing. They said, no, we're comfortable at 2, whatever it does. So I said, I got to go to Montreal. I got to live the dream. And I did, and it was I enjoyed my time in Montreal. It was it's special. It's special to wear that jersey,
isn't it?
Friends and family. It's weird, but it was a special time.
Yeah, for sure. So you were a free agent. You signed the Habs, but that year, that lockout year, Asiago, you went over there and played. How was that? You only 10 games, but. What was the deal? Did you go over and play and say, I don't like this and come home?
Okay.
Or did you, what happened there?
So now, before Christmas, we would play, it was called the Caravan McDonald, where it's just like the Montreal guys would do 3 teams and we go to different towns and just play 3 teams type of thing. So now, because we're expecting maybe we'll come back and play. It was just to stay in shape. Next thing you know, it's like, I don't think it's coming back. So now guys are kind of scrambling to go overseas. And at the time, one of my good friends in hockey is Stéphane Quintal, the Big Q.
Big Q, yeah.
So, but the Big Q is towards the end of his career, but we want to play together. So we want to do this thing where, okay, but there's not that many teams are interested in, both of us.
The package deal.
The package deal. But next thing you know, Asiago Italy says, all right, we'll take him. We'll go together. Okay. Right. So that's how it came about. Like, I don't know anything about Asiago. I've been to Italy before, and Rome was my favorite city. But Asiago is like, it's on the top of a mountain, and they're called torrentes, where you get car sick going up. There's straight up the hill. Knuckles, there's 1 bar, 2 restaurants. Everybody has a nap in the afternoon. Like, there's nothing going on down. And so I stayed there. I played there. It was towards the end of the year. So I did play the 10 game. And I think the Big Q left after 5. He said, that's enough. Be there by myself.
Now, is that northern Italy? It's
yes, it's like an hour and a half west of Venice. It's near Verona, so it's pretty much up top in the middle.
Bolzano's up there, right?
Yes, you're right. Yeah.
Because when I retired, I had an offer to go to Bolzano, and I struggled with it because I had family, my kids, and they wanted to go back to Boston. My wife at the time wanted to go back to Boston, and I get it. And I didn't want to drag them all over there. Here we are in Italy now. What the hell? And they're all like, so I just packed it in. But I kick myself in the ass sometimes. I wish I went just to get the experience of being over there. I just got back from London and was over. I saw Liverpool play, and I friggin' love London. It reminded me so much of home, Boston. Like, it was crazy. And the whole soccer thing I was never big into. and not that I am today, but I'm more of a fan today than I ever was. And to see Liverpool was pretty cool. But yeah, so back to hockey. Enough of the bullshit with soccer. So putting on that jersey the first time coming home, like playing in front of the crowd, you must have had to have a shitload of tickets for family and stuff. How cool was that? And what was your best moment?
It was really cool. Putting the jersey, like I knew, like you want to impress, right? Like they sign you, you want to impress. So I knew, like I'm not the best stick handler, I'm not the best with my hands, but I knew I could skate. So I'll just skate. So I knew I could make some plays and just skate. And I remember hearing the oohs and ahs. Like people are proud, to have like a homegrown kid playing there. So I knew I had kind of their backs, like just play well and you'll do well. And a lot of people talk about the pressure of playing in Montreal, but I always found like it helped me because you got to be on all the time. Like you can't take a night off. And I found out it would help me. But at the other side of the token, I know if you're a French superstar, it's got to be the toughest thing in the world because they're asking you to score 2 goals a night.
Yeah.
That's the tough thing. So, you don't have that type of pressure. But what I like about the Montreal fans is they can really appreciate a good defensive play. Yeah. And they know their hockey. Yeah. So that's what I enjoy playing in Montreal. And obviously I had some injuries and some difficulty getting on the ice all the time. But you talked about Bob Gainey earlier. I didn't have him as a teammate, but I had him as a GM and a coach. But as a GM, I found like he was I understood that like there's something special about Bob Gainey because he was able to, get you to play your best hockey after a 10-minute meeting with a guy off in a hotel somewhere. Just have a conversation with him and he can really relate to you and talk to you and make you feel like you're the best hockey player in the world. And props to Bob Gainey because I did enjoy him. Like as a GM, I thought he was great to me because he's the one that signed me also. So, but he was I didn't have him as a teammate. I heard stories, but I didn't have him as a teammate. But as GM, I thought he was great. He was great for me.
Yeah, I never had him that way. But we had Big Surge. Big Surge was an awesome GM. He was fucking unbelievable. He traded me, the prick, but I love him. But I got to tell you, that guy was so good at managing people. And that's a big part of it, right? Managing people. He never panicked. I think he panicked when he traded me, but he never panicked. He was always cool. There was pressure coming from whether it was the media or some outside thing happened with a guy on the team or some bad shit was going on because some things happened when we were here.
Oh, yeah.
And he never panicked. He always took a step back and assessed the situation and then put a lot of thought into it before he made a decision or a move. So Big Surge was so cool to work for. So your time with the Habs, that pride of playing here, awesome. You addressed the pressure. It's funny. I love Lemieux. Lemieux, I just love him. And he came to me after a game once, and he said to me, Chris, and you said it, this crowd kind of made you, you got to be on your game or you're going to hear it. Yeah. Lemieux came to me after game, and he said, hey, how do you think you played tonight? I said, I was all right. I can be better. He said, you were all right. You weren't all right. Fuck that. That ain't the Chris I know. Blah, blah, blah. And this was early on. And he said to me, listen, you got to be honest with yourself about your game. And players often aren't. They think they're better than they are on the ice. They won't be honest. You got to get honest with yourself, 1. 2, here's what I'm going to do with you. I'm going to let you have one of those games every 10 games. So you can have 8 shit games a year. That's it.
Yeah.
And he says what that's going to do, and I hope it does it for you, that okay, you have a bad game, you can't have another one right away. You got to You got to get it back right away. You can't let that slip into 2 games, 3 games. And he was so good with me about it. Like, he would talk to me. That's why I freaking love Jacques Lemieux. Helped me so much. 2 guys that really did it for me here in Montreal. Claude Lemieux, Sherbrooke, my man. I absolutely love him. In my early career, really took me under his wing, and then Lemieux took it. Jacques took it to the next level. They helped me become a everyday NHLer. Like from sitting on the bench, I couldn't have done my job if I had to sit on the bench all the time and go fight and then sit back there. I couldn't have done it. I wouldn't have been a happy person. So they helped me achieve that.
You have to feel just as important as the top guy on the team.
Yeah.
Because it's a team thing. And, I remember talking about Mike Bossy. I worked with at TVA Sport. And he mentioned it. Like he said, I would tell people who's the greatest hockey player in the NHL. And people would say Wayne Gretzky. Okay. How many years did he play? 20. How many cups did he win? Well, 4. Well, why, if you're the best player, like, why didn't he win 20 cups? Because it's a team goddamn game.
Yeah.
And he said the guys that play 5 minutes, 10 minutes, whatever it is, they're just as important as the top guy. And that's how you win as a team. And, you talk about your relationship with your coach. I had Claude Julien my first year in Montreal. And as a hockey player, I think you just want honesty. You don't want the bullshit like when or this and that.
Yeah.
And Claude was really good. He says, Mathieu, if you're going to play here, like the way I want you to play, I know what you can do. I want these 3 things out of you. Make sure, let's say, you get the puck out every time. Don't have a turnover at the far blue line and, something else.
Yeah.
You do these 3 things, we're good. Right? So now you play, you have a shitty game, a couple of turnovers, and then you go to you. What did we talk about? Oh, I should get the puck out. I made a turnover. He says, so then you get back to it, said, do these 3 things. And that's why I got along with him really well, because he was honest. There was no mind games. Bullshit.
He's a good guy.
Good guy. Do these 3 things, we're good. And that's it. That's how you have to play. And, then you get, different coaches. And then there's always these numbers games. Right?
Who'd you have after him?
Who
were your coaches here? Cabo. You were Cabo.
Bob Gainey, then Guy Carbonneau, then Bob Gainey again.
Yeah, right. So a little turbulent times, right?
It was different.
And when we talk about being with an organization who's settled in and things are good, and that was certainly a turbulent time. My man Cobb, fuck. Cabo. I don't know. I don't know why he left coaching, because he just wanted to coach here. Or I just thought he could probably stick with it and coach, but I guess he packed it. I never asked him.
I just like the one thing about coaching these days is you need to be a psychologist.
Oh fuck.
You don't have hockey players anymore. You have brands. Like everybody's a brand. Everybody's something. You got to deal with guys different ways, differently. And Carbo's an old school guy, right? Like he just did his job. He just shut up and do your thing. Like he was an awesome hockey player, right? So I think communication wise wasn't
his strongest
point. But then he had Kurt Muller with him, and Kurt Muller was the most talkative guy. Yeah, exactly.
Talk a dog off a meat wagon.
Yeah, type of thing. So, but it's just I think communication a bit. But we did go. I think we finished first 1 year in the Eastern Conference. So with Carbo. But then, some other things went pretty sour quickly. So
God, that was a tough time, and my line mates, that kind of caused some friction there for quite a while. But it's nice to see them sitting back together again, because life's too fucking short.
No.
I looked at the whole Lemieux Guy Lafleur thing, and I'm like, come on, fucking drop it, guys, and then Guy ends up leaving us, it's like,
well, I had 2
short.
issues because he didn't play me. So I had
Cobb?
Yeah. Yeah, you didn't play
prick.
me.
You prick, Cabo, you prick.
Hey, this is one thing I do. I did because Breezer too at one time wasn't playing, and Breezer's at the end of his career, but he was he's one of my favorite teammates I had. Right, such a big guy. But I remember we're in the press box, and you get all these pressers about the game that's going on, all these stats, and I'm just going through the stats, and I'm like, F this, I'm doing this. So then I started doing every time I'm in the lineup, if the team wins, and somebody else is in the lineup. Next thing you know, I'm like, Breezer, look at this. Like I have like a 600 winning percentage when I play, right? And now it's at 400 with all these. And I went up to Bob Gainey. I said, Bob, I need a meeting. Like I can't get in the lineup, but I mean these facts. This ain't wrong. Like you can't. These stats, like. And I remember getting back in the lineup, and one of the things the guys would laugh all the time because when I was out of the lineup, the next game when I came back, I had this thing about scoring a goal. Like I don't know, like I would score next time in the lineup, and it would drive the people crazy. And I remember one time in Boston, Kirk Muller, and this made headlines at the time, but Kirk Muller, a pregame skate. He's like, we're on the fourth line and we're like skating. And then he takes us in the corner and he goes, oh, this guy, you're going to do this, you're going to do that tonight. And Dandy, you're going to score a goal and because you're all pissed off and everything. I said, damn right, I'm pissed off. And I go, that night I score a goal, right? So get back to the bench. And Kirk goes, okay, if you score another one, you might play next game. So next score a second goal. Stare at the bench, like just stare him down. But it's Kirk Muller. Everybody think it's Carbo, but Carbo has nothing to do with it. And I'm staring at Kirk, and he's kind of chuckling type of thing. Next thing you know, the media's everywhere.
Oh, Jesus.
Doing all this thing, but
Dandenault stares down Carbonell after scoring too. Oh, fuck.
But it is what it is, and looking back now, you can't be mad at anybody. Like everybody's trying to do their best, trying to do their job. And, in hindsight, you change some of the things, some of the decisions, but you're right there and then, and the heat is on. Like no matter who it is, if you're head coach of the Montreal Canadiens, the heat is on.
That's all the time.
So I don't blame anybody, and I have a good time seeing Carbo all the time and stuff. So
I love that you say that because for a while I really it was between me and Jean Perron, right? Why I got traded, and I had some choice words for him,
sure,
and that didn't go over big. Serge ended up trading me, and I always kind of held against Jean, and that. Thing is, he didn't have that respect for me, I believe, so I wasn't going to, you don't respect me, I ain't respecting you. Yeah. See you later. It's just not going to happen. And I end up getting traded, and I was kind of pissed at Serge because he took his side, he didn't take mine. But in the end, when I really looked at it, I put Serge in a fucking bad, I put him in that situation.
Yeah.
Because... And I always said I got to stay true to myself. Listen, I'll always be there for my teammates. But when it comes to a coach telling me or making an inference that I have to go fight, fuck you.
Yeah.
Then I got to stay true to myself. And I did. And it ended up hurting me because I never wanted to play. Honestly, I always say it, I was never the same player when I left there. I still stuck up for my teammates, all that. But it was not the same. I just loved playing in Montreal. They gave me my chance. They helped me develop all that. So, it's a tough thing.
For me is that I had a few injuries, but at the same time, when you become a healthy scratch, it goes through the NHL pretty quickly, right? It's a small country club, the NHL. Everybody knows each other. So I just found like now going to free agency, it was just like, he's a part-time player now. Like, why was he a healthy scratch? It's always like that. That kind of bugged me about my time at the end there. Being a healthy.
That's
scratch.
A tough time, right?
I don't think
that's a tough time. I had it in Boston. I was a healthy scratch my last year. The first road trip, I never got on the ice. It just sucked. And
I almost was a Boston Bruin too.
Really?
Yeah, because so now I'm a free agent, and Bob Gainey's like, I like you, I want you back, but I'll give it up to, it was Jacques Martin at the time that became
Okay.
coach, and Claude Julien was coaching in Boston, and they called me, and but they didn't mention like it's a 1-year deal. You'd be a seventh guy. Are you comfortable with that? What Montreal's kind of calling me back, type of thing. And then they decided to go with Johnny Boychuk, which had a pretty good NHL career.
Yeah.
I almost signed with Boston, and next thing you know, like Montreal's like Jacques is like Martin is like, I'm not bringing anybody back. I think it was like 12 guys that like from that team that were gone.
Yeah.
Well, I ended up doing okay because I think they went to the Cup finals.
Right.
Or something like that. So, but it was, almost became a Boston Bruin. That would have been something. My God, 3 original teams.
So, Mathieu, today, that transition out of the game, how was that for you? Like, guys struggle. I just had Mike Weaver on recently, and he talked about how difficult it was to transition, but he made it. He had an education, went to school, he went to Michigan State 4 years, got a degree, and he's applying it in his life now. Not everybody does that. How difficult was it? Because I know for me at the end, it was a struggle. Like my last year, I was like, fuck, it was getting so much harder fighting. Now I'm fighting all these young kids. I was getting done to me what I was doing to guys when I come in the league. And it was getting fucking tough. I was questioning myself. I knew I was slowing up.
Yeah.
I was 34, and that's fucking old for a guy to fucking be out there fighting, whether we like to think so or not, but it sure was. But that transition and down near the end for you, were you okay with it? Was it a difficult time?
So my following Montreal, I went to San Jose on a tryout. I didn't make it. I think Jason Demers got the job, and then the Rangers called. So and the Rangers were like, "Come and get in shape. Go to Hartford, the Wolfpack, the American League. Come and get in shape because we want you to, we'll want you eventually to come up." And I was like, okay. So I went there and I started playing really well. And so we were talking contract. And the thing is, like in the minors, when you sign a PTO, is that you need to sign an NHL official contract by March 3rd to play in the playoffs. That was the thing. And then, so I tore my groin in 2 different places.
Yeah.
So now I'm like, once I got injured, every single defenseman on that team went up and played with the Rangers. Like I was losing my mind. Like it should have been me, right? And then I wasn't able to come back by March 3rd to sign the contract. So now the Rangers are like, we really like you. Get healthy. Why don't you come back next year? And then at the time I was like, I told my wife I was leaving for 3 weeks. Like now this is going into February. Like,
Yeah.
I can't. And I pretty much accomplished everything I wanted to, short from 1,000 game, and that was like kind of 2 seasons away. And so I was like, it's not going to happen. So I was like, you know what? I think I'm done. This injury, I was supposed to have surgery, not have surgery, and have surgery again. So it was like, so never mind. So then I went home. I packed it up, and I was kind of somewhat looking forward to it. It's like, okay, I can do whatever I want, drink whatever I want, eat whatever I want, right? But the weirdest thing is, I don't know about you, but I'm going to use a prop here, but your whole life, you had a schedule telling you what to do, where to go, do this, do that, and perform. Do this, do that, and perform. And next thing you know, you're at home, like, nobody's telling me what to do. Like, what am I doing? So I think that was the struggling part, is like, what the hell am I going to do? At the time, my wife at the time, she was an interior designer, so she had a career that she was kind of holding up. So it was just like for her to do her thing, and I'll just support, which I did. But, it wasn't that fun now. Great, but I was like, it's something to do. But I just found like just that little struggle about like, who are you? What am I? Like
outside of hockey.
Exactly. Yeah. What do I like? What do I don't like? What's fun? What passion? You need a passion, right? Like you need something. And then it was just like, it was a bit of a struggle, but it wasn't as bad because my wife at the time, she was transitioning, and I got to see the world. I did some traveling and stuff, and with my daughter at the time, like it's the one thing, as as a hockey player, hockey comes first, then it's family, then it's everything else. But now it's the other way around. Once you retire, family's first. So I get to spend more time with my daughter, and then I started doing TV stuff. And I thought to myself, Knuckles, I would never do TV stuff.
All right.
I would never do TV.
Not going to be one of them.
I'm not going to be one of them. But at the time, I remember one time we were playing in New York, and it was the night we traveled just the night before, and so now there's all these TV shows going around and just the rah type of thing. Your ex-coach was on one of those TV shows.
Yeah.
And I remember we lost like 5-1. And somebody said on that show, I know why they lost, because they had the rookie party the night before, right? And I'm like, what the fuck is this? Like, there's no way you ever do a rookie party the night before a game. No. It's never happened in the history of the NHL. And that's when it came to me, like, I'm like, you know what? These guys don't know somewhat what they're talking about, because they're not in the dressing room. They don't know what it is. And that's when it kind of brought me around, that I would watch these TV shows and I'd be like, no, that's wrong. That's not the way it goes in the dressing room. But people throw anything in the air. If it sticks, it sticks. If it doesn't, it doesn't. So that's when I'm like, people started talking to me. Would you be interested? I'll go try it out. And I did. I tried, I was on RDS for like 5 or 6 shows, and I kind of liked it. And then TVA Sports called me for the next year. And I like, you like being around the guys, and you don't miss the game of hockey all that much, but you miss the dressing room. Yeah. And it was the dressing room atmosphere that drew me to hockey, because it's all ex-NHL players, and then you'll have one journalist, one radio guy, and I thought the mix is good, because I think you do need their perspective too, as an outsider, but they know their hockey too. But I think that's what creates compelling conversations, and that's when I went to TV. I'm like, I told myself I'd never do it, but I think I had to do it.
Well, listen, I went to the radio, and I thought the same way. Like, when I talked about hockey with guys on the radio, with Campbell or whoever, guys who never played, I never wanted to make them feel like, oh, you don't know what the fuck you're talking about because you didn't play. And I never did that. I never wanted to belittle someone, because a lot of people know the game of hockey, understand it, can see it. Sure, not everybody has played at the level that we played at, the pro level, but they played the game and kind of know the nuances of it all. So I certainly get that part of it too. Just quick before I let you go, Matthew, I want to talk a little bit about the game today, where you think it's at, what you think of it, and just what the Habs are doing. Let's start with the game today and what you think of it.
Well, I think to go back in my time and your time too, I think one of the biggest differences is that we didn't have YouTube. Like a guy would show up at camp and try, let's say, going wide under the stick. I think Fedorov did it for the first time in our training. We'd never seen it before. Yeah. That was something to see these moves. Like, we'd have to come up with things. As for now, when you're a kid, just go on YouTube and you see the Michigan, see all these skills that you can practice outdoors. We never seen those moves. So I think the skill-wise is way better than when we played. And I think I played with every single evolution of a hockey stick. I started with full wood, then the metal shaft with the one blade, the one piece and everything. So I think, now the technology and everything has evolved too. I remember doing the movie The Rocket Richard, and one of the few of the hockey scenes, we all had the old skates, the retro skates. And it took 15 minutes to shut down the project because everybody would fall on the ice. Nobody could follow. So now they had to do a new skate with an old blade under. So it's just, I think skill-wise, that's the biggest difference. I think toughness-wise, it changed too. Because I remember going into some of these buildings, like you go to Chicago and, you'd be up 2-1 or 3-1, and be like, please don't score another goal. Please don't
Yeah.
score another goal. And then a fourth goal.
Let them think they're still in the game.
Next thing you know, like Bob Probert's on the ice, Vanderbush, Ciccone. Oh my God, that was so. Go Dandy, yeah, great. Nick Lidstrom, you're done for tonight. You can
Yeah.
do your skate.
Have a seat, Nick.
Hey, those last 5 minutes are horrible. So
yeah.
I think that's one of the difference too, like the intimidating factor, because it does play into the game. That's for sure. Like if Chris Nilan at the end of the game is like, you're like, you got
Not happy.
It's not a fun time. It's not. So I think but basically now, the question is the skills is so much better. And from the start, as soon as they're young, you can watch TV, watch all these videos. We just had Rock and Sock 'em. That's all we had as for videos. And to go back to now to the Montreal Canadiens, I think it's exciting. It's exciting.
Isn't it?
Yeah, this young pool of talent. It's not older veterans. It's the young guys that are pulling their weight, and I think the fans really appreciate it because it's exciting. It's exciting hockey, and it's exciting to whoever's coming up next. I know there's a goalie, there's that Demidov guy, and so
Fowler, Demidov.
yeah. So I'm not a day-to-day type of NHLer anymore.
Yeah.
To watch everything, but I know somewhat what's coming up in a way, and that's exciting for the fans because. The fans had it hard. Like it's tough. If you're gonna lose and not make the playoff, at least make it exciting. And I think they're making it exciting. And now it's like we haven't been in the playoff for so long. Now it's like, oh my God, it's about to happen.
Yeah.
And these kids are pulling the ball. And I think that's one of the biggest differences that when we started, we kind of had to earn our position and earn our way to the top. Now these guys, they get it right away. So I think that's one of the difference. Like. You'd have to earn your spot to the top line. You wouldn't get it right away. But now these guys are so skilled and so good. It's like, we'll just, give you the first line right away. And
Yeah. It's funny. I look at, Christ, I played with Bob and Cabo for like 5 years together. And that team, we were together. Like, if you have one new guy a year, it was like, oh, yeah, let's bring this kid in. There were no rookie meals. It was like the fucking kid could never afford it. But, I look at what's going on. I didn't think they're going to make the playoffs this year, and I'll say it because, come on, look at November, the beginning of December. That Christmas trip saved them.
Yes.
Mind you. And even then, after that Christmas trip, there was some games there they just couldn't play. They couldn't keep the puck out of net. They're the worst defensive team.
Yep.
And then I know they did that hybrid system in their own. But now I'm watching. They're playing man on man. I want to ask you about this. Having played and been a defenseman, what do you think about when you see defensemen out at the blue line?
Yeah,
like
it's kind of strange. It's kind of
right.
Strange. Yes.
Like, I think they have to do that because they couldn't get that hybrid system, right?
Yeah.
Because the first time I saw him, because I remember Lemieux always not past the top of the circles. I don't want you past the top of the circles. You can't be.
Yeah.
It's too far. You're gone. You're done. But now I'm seeing this. What do you think of that? Like,
I find that you got to deal with whatever personnel you have, and some of the guys, it's hockey sense. You're going back to the kids could have all the skills in the world, but if you don't have the hockey sense, you can't play in a way. But I think sometimes when you have those switch offs, it confuses everybody.
Yeah.
Well, as a defense, I'll say the forwards. It confuses the forward.
Blame the forwards.
Blame the forwards. But I think that's what happened. And throughout a season, we would do the same thing. We'd eventually, you're on a losing streak. It's not going well. We'll change things up. We'll go man-to-man down low. Okay, you just follow the same guy. At the time, we could actually bear hug our guy. He could go anywhere. I have a story where Steve Duchesne's my partner in Detroit, and he goes, "Okay, Dandy," he says, "when the puck goes into my corner, I'll hold up. You go get it. When the puck goes into your corner, I'll hold up. You go get it." But at the time, you can hold up anybody, right? Yeah. So now it's just like a question like, okay, we'll just try this. because it confuses less of the guys. Like, just stick to one guy and just follow him everywhere.
Yeah.
So you simplify things. In the long run, will it work? I don't know. But throughout the season, we would, we'll go man to man, or then we'll just play zone. Whatever is going to work and help out the team win. But to go out, like, you're right. Like, I don't think the Canadiens were going to make the playoffs, but everybody else is losing too.
I know, it's crazy.
It's a fortunate thing that we're on the losing streak. Everybody else was losing. So I think you kind of have to have those bounces, because I know when you play too, you kind of look at the out of town scores.
Oh yeah.
You're peeking. Okay, they're losing too. Like, oh, they're winning. Jesus. So, but it's a fun time, to be a Canadiens fan. It's a fun time to watch, and the kids are playing well, and Suzuki's playing awesome, and it's good to see your captain to thrive all that much, right?
Yeah, for sure. And it's nothing. There's nothing like being in this city come springtime and the Habs in the playoffs. Nothing like it.
Absolutely. I agree with you 100%.
Matthew, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it. Great to chat today. You're awesome.
Good to see you. Good to talk.
All right, thanks, buddy.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Sick Podcast Raw Knuckles with Chris Nilan on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.